The wait is over at LSU. It was announced today. Well, it's being announced as we speak. It was reported today. Ross Dellinger with Sports Illustrated was the first on it, that LSU and Ed Orgeron have reached a separation agreement. He will complete 2021. Again, this is according to the Dellinger report. He'll complete 2021. He will not return in 2022. That's the important part. So Ed Orgeron, the formality is not just a formality now. It's done. He's gone. He will not be the head coach at LSU. Full buyout expected to be delivered. And for those unfamiliar, it's a pretty significant buyout. This caught me mildly by surprise. Depending on what you've listened to over the past few days, maybe you felt the same way. The national reaction has been as expected. This is why I've tried to keep you as dialed in as we can. There have been some folks pretty close to this that we've been in touch with, and so we've had some good information on this. I've tried to keep you as dialed in, and the reason I've tried to keep you dialed in is for this part right here. Because if you noticed when this news started to break today, if you looked around the country, a lot of the national types and a lot of casual fans that aren't close to or on the ground in the SEC or around LSU, they had similar reactions. Shame on LSU. Man, that's just the Wild West of the SEC, less than 2 years removed from winning a national title, and you're letting him go. That's not it. That's not it at all. Did you notice, by the way, for anyone who thinks this was a knee-jerk reaction, or for anyone who thinks that it was bad timing because the decision was made after a win, guys, did you look around and see how many stories were posted from 14 different media outlets within an hour of this news breaking? Do you know what that means? It means they were already written, firstly. Secondly, a little behind the scenes here, we have a Google Doc. It is the most archaic way to ever put together a rundown. If you don't believe me, ask some folks in Stamford, Connecticut or Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But it's the way I do it. And so we have had a lower third that I have highlighted in red, and it has been the lower third that essentially you see on the bottom of your screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. We've had it ready for like, 2.5 weeks, Colin, 3 weeks? I've just had it in the file, and I've had it marked in red, and I said, don't use this until I tell you to. Everyone behind the scenes knew this was coming. It wasn't a knee-jerk. In fact, it was decided long ago. So I want to look at a follow-up tweet, because Ross Dellinger, who broke this story for SI, he put out his main tweet today, and he broke it on Twitter, but I want to look at the follow-up tweet he had. I'm showing you on the screen right now. I'm going to read it for you if you're listening on podcast. So Orgeron, this is what the public sees. This is what the casuals see. Orgeron's 49-17 at LSU, but only 9-8 since the championship. However, this goes beyond on-field results. Listen to the next part, please. A strained relationship between coach and administration, to say the least, rooted in team management and public and private behavior. Only a tippy-tippy tip of the iceberg has ever and probably will ever be made public. That has warped into an untenable situation, distrust, and outbursts. As we have told you for a couple of weeks now, as bad as you get the kind of sensation that it is down there, it was infinitely worse. To put a finer point on it, folks hated it there. Players telling people, including myself directly, they hated it there. They had zero respect for the head coach. There was no relationship there. It was very volatile, to say the very, very, very least, at the kind of absence of a much better word. It's been that way for a while. So everyone knew that was coming, but I want to rewind 1 month, because this is done now. It's been done for a little while, but it's done now. And I think they timed it up well. And I think doing it after a win signifies what we said a couple of weeks ago was true. Going into the Kentucky game, remember when I told you Orgeron's going to be fired, and I don't care what happens Saturday? It's because this was already happening. A lot of us had already heard that. It was happening. And so he was done regardless. He could have, I don't know if he could have won every game and been fired, but he wasn't going to. So he could have won against Kentucky. He did win yesterday. Doesn't matter. And I'm going to talk about that game more in just a little while. But I want to rewind 1 month, because it was on a Sunday night when I first sort of threw this little tidbit out there. And I said, I had an agent buddy of mine who told me about the USC job. Don't think you're about to get any kind of quick solutions or answers on the USC job. And I said, why? I was interested. And he said, well, everyone thinks the LSU job is going to come open. And in my world, in the agent world, in the coaching world, a vast majority of people believe the LSU job is a way better job than USC. I agree with that, but it was just kind of validation to know that they felt the same way. Well, now it's real. We fast forward a month or so, now it's real. Now we've arrived at the very situation that he sort of alluded to happening. It's funny how people in that world can see around the corner well ahead of time. But it's real, and here's what I want you to remember. I want you to remember LSU is not one of the best college football jobs in America. LSU is one of the best football jobs, period, in America. And so I know a lot of hot lists are going to be formed out there, and I know there are going to be a lot of leaderboards, and this is the favorite, and I'm hearing that guy's the favorite. Well, first off, be patient on this stuff. I'm not going to give you a list of candidates tonight because there's not a whole lot of skill in it because I'm not making the decision. Would I be interested in how James Franklin would do there? Of course I would. I'd love to see what Mel Tucker would do there. There are like 24 guys I'd love to see get a shot there. I don't have a say in this decision. They have not texted me or called me about this yet, but 95% of the information being put out right now is from agents. So as good as they are on the front end to get some information, on the back end, it's pure self-preservation mode. It's pure be able to go to my current guy's boss and say, hey, we talked to LSU, give him a raise mode. That's what's happening right now. So just pump the brakes a little bit on all the information and speculation. This is not going to be an overnight deal, but it will unfold over time. But I do want to say this. This is viewed as one of the best football jobs in America, meaning don't just cast your gaze over college football. Don't be surprised if you start to hear some NFL names involved in this as well. I'm not speculating specifically about that. That's been something general that I've been told, but you've got the salary structure, of course, in place there for head coach and assistants. You've got access to talent. You've got full administrative buy-in, and you've got a heck of an administrative model top to bottom, led by one of the most premier athletic directors in the country. This is why I told you the decision was going to be so easy. The program's not a train wreck. The head coach was. The program's still on the tracks. The program's ready to go. You just need a new guy driving it. But you've got fan passion, you got top to bottom investment, you got all the stuff that you need to win and win at a high level. Those are the pros. The cons aren't really cons. There are some folks out there who would tell you, well, you got to compete in the SEC. Yeah, that's not a con to a competitor. Well, you got to go up against Saban. That's not a con to a competitor either. They welcome that. So by default, the guy who is right for the LSU job will not view the alleged cons that you see with the LSU job as cons at all. You got to compete? Great. I wake up at 4:55 every morning to do it. I got to go and get Saban, the best of all time? Great. I wake up at 4:55 every morning to do it. I've lived my whole life. I've climbed every rung of the ladder in hopes that I would get that opportunity. Competitors, again, by default, the 0.01% who are qualified to be the head coach at LSU, they're not turned off by the stuff that some of you may be turned off by. This is going to be fun to watch. Glad the move has already been made, at least officially. So excited to hear what was said at this press conference tonight. I'll probably talk more about this Tuesday.